All right, so can anyone tell, just from looking, where you think I might be? Put up your hand if you want. Put up your hand if you can tell me. Henry, where do you think I am right now?
Right now, you're actually at the zoo.
You're right. And can anyone figure out, just from what is behind me, where in the zoo we are?
Yeah, she's at the zoo today.
Pardon? We are, okay, so we are at the zoo. In the back corner, I am near the alligator. Is it an alligator, Cat? I'm near the alligator and the badger, and we are in the conservation area. So welcome here. My name is Haley from Learn Fort Langley, and Kat from the Greater Vancouver Zoo is here too. And I am actually also at the zoo. She's actually right behind me. So in a minute, I'm going to go over there and join her, and you'll see me over there as well. So welcome here today, Mr. Coughlin's class as well. Welcome. And Kat, you can take it away.
Thank you, Haley. Welcome, everyone. We are live here at Conservation Corner. We have a special presentation, actually. We are going to be talking with one of our conservation biologists. So you don't really get to see our biologists very much when you are at the zoo because they're more behind the scenes working on their breeding programs, which we're going to talk about. So we have a few animals here that we breed: the Oregon spotted frog, the Taylor checker spot butterfly, and the Western painted turtle. And we're gonna dive into all these amazing animal facts and talk to our conservation biologist, Michelle, and ask her about why these animals are important for breeding. And we're also going to tap into life cycles as well. So the life cycles of a frog, turtle, butterfly, all that fun stuff. And we also have two special guests too. We have Lexi and Lachlan, who are going to help us out as well. So it's like a little fun field trip for them since they can go back to school. So we're going to start off by talking about life cycles. So the life cycles of a frog. There are two different types of life cycles. We have non-metamorphic and metamorphic life cycle. So a non-metamorphic life cycle are ones that don't have to go through rapid changes to end up being what they look like as a full adult. For example, when a lion is born, they come out looking just like their parents. They don't have to go through many stages to develop into that typical lion look. Whereas a frog, when they're first born, they don't come out looking like a frog. They have to go through what's called metamorphic life cycle, which they go through many different changes. So we have here, actually, Lexi's gonna hold up a little chart. There she is. So we're gonna zoom in here of the different stages of metamorphic life cycle. So the first one we're seeing here is we got the eggs. And then after that, they become the tadpole. And then after that, it will be the early first development of that tadpole. You see their growing legs. Then after that, they have their front legs growing because we've already got their back legs. And then they become the adult frogs. So they actually absorb their tail into their body. And then that's how they become the frog.
And then they turn into a tadpole.
That's actually the second stage, Lachlan, but very good. So we have him telling you over again that we have the second stage is the tadpole. Now I'm going to turn the camera over to our biologist, Michelle, and she's going to tell us some more fun facts about the Oregon spotted frog. There's Michelle, everyone. So Michelle, tell us, what is the Oregon spotted frog?
The Oregon spotted frog is a frog that's native to this area, so the Fraser Valley, but unfortunately they're endangered. So that means that there's very few left of them in the wild. So what we're doing here is captive breeding them so that we can release them into the wild so that we can start up a healthy population so that we can take them away from the brink of being endangered.
So Michelle, why are these frogs so important compared to other frogs that we see in the wild?
Well, all frogs are important, but these frogs are, like I said, native. So they historically, many years ago, were found here. Whereas a lot of other frogs that we find here are either introduced or invasive. So that means that they've been brought by people to this part of the world from other parts of the world. So sometimes that's not a problem, but sometimes it can be a problem. So for instance, the American bullfrog is an introduced and invasive species. So that means that these bullfrogs will take over habitat, breeding area, food, and they will actually eat some of our smaller frogs. And so that makes them invasive and not good for the natural populations that should be living here.
Perfect. And what is your actual role with the Oregon spotted frog, or your job role in general? And how do you guys track these frogs when you re-release them?
So we have 3 tanks here that have adult frogs in them, Oregon spotted frogs, and that's our breeding population. So in the spring, the females and males get together, and the females will lay an egg mass, which the male then fertilizes. We take care of these eggs until they develop and become tadpoles, at which point we put them into all these other big tubs where they will grow and develop. And then once they finish their metamorphosis and have their legs, we release them into a protected wetland in the wild. And we have different ways of tracking them. So we can put kind of like what your dogs and cats have, so a little microchip inside of them. And that way, when we go back into the wild and we find individuals, we can see that it was one that we captive bred versus one that was born in the wild.
Perfect. Now, do we have the first stage of the life cycle of a frog?
We don't have any eggs anymore.
Okay.
So our eggs have already turned into tadpoles, but I can show you some tadpoles if you would like to see.
Wonderful. Let's go see the second stage of our life cycle, guys. Is the tadpoles that Michelle's going to show us.
Let's see if I can catch one. They're pretty quick little guys.
Want to see a tadpole up close?
Mhm. Of course, when I don't want to catch one, I always catch them. But when I do, go and give them a little bit of water.
Very cool.
So this is an Oregon spotted frog tadpole.
I want to see a
How do
You
we-
want to see?
Whoa.
So he looks like a little fish, but this little guy is going to turn into a frog once he sprouts some legs, and then he, like Kat said, will absorb his tail.
Really cool.
Yeah.
There we
And
go.
then you guys will play the rest of the
So
song.
there's the tadpole there, everybody. A lot different than a picture.
These were tadpoles.
There you go. Awesome. Thank you, Michelle.
You're very
So
welcome.
the next stage would be, you guys have the adults, correct?
Yeah, I can show you guys some adults. So these guys are actually the parents of all of these tadpoles
Okay, perfect.
here. And
Come
these
on,
guys
Lexi.
are-
Lachlan, let's go see an adult frog.
So they are an aquatic frog, which means that they like to live in the water, but will come up to bask in the sunshine and eat. But they feel safest when they're in the water. So I'm going to look for them, but they can be hard to find if they don't want to be found.
Very cool. And what do you guys feed the Oregon spotted frog?
We feed these guys crickets. So in the wild, they would eat all sorts of different bugs and creepy crawlies. Maybe even a fish if they can catch it. You can see, oh yeah, the crickets. There's lots of crickets. Where's all the frogs? Let's try this way. Pretty fast.
Oh,
Crickets are getting out. Oh, cricket!
Here we go.
That's called cricket.
whoa. So we have, oh,
We had
They're really slippery.
very slippery.
so that's why, everyone, we leave the frog catching to the professionals because we don't want to lose any of our Oregon spotted frogs. There you go.
What?
So that, everyone, is an organ-spotted full adult frog.
This is a lady frog, and you can tell because she's a little bit fatter, so she needs some room to carry her eggs.
Can you show us some dad froggies?
Dad froggies are in that tub over there.
Do you separate the females from the males?
We do when it's not breeding season.
Okay.
And then we'll put them back together when it's time for them to make some babies.
Perfect. Awesome.
I'm gonna put her back.
All right. So are we able, Michelle, to go and visit our Western painted turtle and show the conservation efforts? Perfect. So we're going to go, everyone, to see our second conservation animal that needs our help out in the wild. And this is our Western painted turtle. And it's quite an amazing story with this turtle that Michelle's going to tell you all about how they got her.
So this is Obi. She's a Western painted turtle, which is also an endangered species that's native to our area. So we came across Obi and she was looking a little bit rough. We found her in the wild and she had survived a predator attack. So as you can see, her shell is a little bit scuffed up. She has a few chunks missing and her tummy is really, really rough. So it doesn't usually look like that. So we brought her back here to the zoo and we're getting her better, making sure she's eating lots and healing up. And then she'll be going back into the wild. But turtles are pretty slow at everything. So she's taking a long time to get better. But hopefully by the end of the summer, she can go back out.
Back to her home.
Exactly. We're going to take her back to her home once she's feeling better. Yeah.
So can I ask you a question, a conservation question? Hi guys, I'm over here now. You're breeding and releasing frogs and turtles.
Yep.
Why, if there's so many frogs, why does it matter to save and rescue and breed these specific ones? Like, there's so many different types of frogs. Why do we care if one type of frog doesn't exist anymore?
Right. Well, these frogs and turtles are a really important part of our natural history and culture. They're really prevalent in Indigenous artwork and culture, but for me, it's a fact, you know, that they were here first before any of us started messing with these ecosystems. So the only reason that they're in trouble is because people have brought other species into their living area. And so I think since it's people that have made these problems, it's our responsibility to make it right.
Perfect. So everyone, when we go to looking back at our life cycles, for turtles, these guys are actually non-metamorphic life cycle. So they don't go through many changes like the frog does to end up looking like the turtle. So when they get out of the egg, they're gonna look just like little small turtles right away. And what's really cool about the Western painted turtle, or I'm pretty sure in turtles in general, they're the size of a loony when they're born. A size of a loony. They're so tiny. It's really cute. And that's another reason why, unfortunately, these turtles too are endangered, because they also battle the predators and us as humans to get to their certain areas when they hatch out of the egg, because they're so tiny that they can easily be run over or a predator can eat them right away. So they're not a fully grown turtle yet. Now, I remember a lot of people asked me when we did the Boris chat about tortoises versus turtles, if we can pick her up one more time. Everyone asks me, what's the difference between a turtle and a tortoise? Well, here's our example here, guys. You can see Obi has a very smooth, soft shell. Yeah. And look at her webbed toes. So she's not like the tortoise, okay, guys? See that? Webbed feet. Whereas the tortoise didn't. Remember, if any of you tuned in for that episode, it has claws that helps them be more stable on the ground. And this helps them swim with their webbed toes too.
She's a very good swimmer.
Very good swimmer. Fantastic. Well, do you guys have any questions now for our biologist, Michelle, or for me about life cycles or the Western painted turtle?
What is that thing?
So the class wants to know, how did you come up with the name Obi?
So her name is Obi because when she was brought in, we thought that she was probably bitten by an otter. And so some of the biologists were just calling her OB, standing for otter bite. But we eventually changed it to just being her name OB. So it's OBI now.
Very cute.
Awesome. So Henry was wondering, why do you keep the males from the females?
Why do you, so they're wondering, why do you keep the female frogs from the male frogs?
Sure. So we're trying to simulate their natural environment as much as we can. So in the wild, the males and females wouldn't necessarily be together all season. The males, when it's early spring, will move into the breeding areas and start calling, which draws the females. And so it's just another way that we're trying to make things as natural for them so that we can have the best results possible for our captive breeding program.
Perfect. Yeah. And unfortunately, guys, we also have Taylor checkered butterflies here, but we can't see them at the moment. Oh, you do? Oh, actually, that's a great tree. Okay, so Michelle actually has a Taylor checkered butterfly. I normally don't get to talk about them because we don't really have them. Yeah.
Can we do questions about the turtles and the frogs and then look at the butterflies after? Would that be good?
Absolutely.
I saw a couple people with hands up about questions. Riley, where are you? Do you have a question, buddy? Can't find you now, bud. He's gone. That's cool.
Yep, I do.
Oh, there you go. Okay, Riley. Riley has lots of wonders. So Riley, what is your question?
Well, I just have one.
Okay.
I just have one for right now. You know that, so, speaking of Star Wars, can frogs jump as high as Luke Skywalker can jump?
Kat, did you hear that?
Yes, I did. So Michelle, they want to know, can frogs jump as high as Luke Skywalker can?
Well, I don't think anyone can jump as high as Luke Skywalker can. But these particular frogs are actually aquatic frogs. So they're much happier swimming than they are jumping on land. So they're very fast, very good swimmers, but you put them on land and they just have little hops.
Very cool.
Awesome. So boys and girls, does anyone else have a question about frogs or the turtles before we move on to looking at the butterflies as well? I bet if you asked Lachlan if he had any questions, he probably has a good question for you.
Hey, Lachlan, do you have any questions?
So Lachlan has no questions for us, but does Lexi have any questions?
Oh,
Lexi has no questions. Okay.
All right, so let's
answered
see the
them all for them.
butterflies, Kat.
Okay, so Michelle, would you love to introduce our Taylor checkered butterfly, which I'm so excited to meet because we don't usually get to see our Taylor checkered butterflies. And this is really quite a special treat, guys. So I'm going to carefully stick this camera here.
So this is so special because Taylor checker spot butterflies only exist as adults for about 2 weeks of the whole year. So their life cycle includes eggs and then caterpillars and then butterflies. But most of their life cycle is actually spent as a caterpillar. So right now we're kind of in the window of them being butterflies, and we're breeding them. And we've had a lot of eggs laid by the females, and soon we're going to have a lot of caterpillars to take care of.
And then they're gonna turn into butterflies.
Exactly.
Yeah, so we have here, everyone, another metamorphic life cycle. So right away, they don't end up looking like this beautiful butterfly we see here. So Michelle, can you tell us, why do they have so many cool spots on them? Like they got that name Taylor checkered spot. So why do they have that?
Well, I don't know why they're like that, other than nature is crazy and makes beautiful creatures. But that you might be seeing the little blue spot on them, and that is actually something that we added.
Oh, okay.
So that's actually from a Sharpie. So we put that on our individual butterflies to keep track of who's who, so that we know who are the parents of certain eggs.
That's really quite fascinating.
Yeah.
Lachlan, you have a question, or
Maybe
Lexi?
that was the lion who bit the turtle.
I don't think so.
I don't think a butterfly can bite a turtle, but that's a good observation. I like that.
I meant the lion.
Oh, the
Oh,
lion.
I hope
well,
not.
the lion's safely in his home right now.
What do you feed the butterflies?
That's a really good question. So as you can see, this lady is on a Q-tip. So I am very shortly going to go dip some more Q-tips into a honey and water mixture. And then I will transfer her and she will stick her little proboscis, which is the kind of little tube that she uses to eat. She'll stick that right onto the Q-tip and she'll suck all the honey out of the Q-tip.
That's really cool.
And also, what you
What do we feed the turtles? So the turtles in the wild are omnivores, which means that they eat vegetables, greens, as well as meat. So Obi gets a diet that has some greens in it, like kale and lettuce, but a lot of a high protein diet, so that she can get better faster. So her absolute favorite is earthworms. Yep.
All right, everyone. So do you have any questions about our tailored checkered spot butterfly or anything else we discussed today for our program?
I got something. Another question.
Mr. Coughlin, does your class have any questions about the turtles or the butterflies?
I want to lift up one of the daddy.
Somebody asked about how powerful a butterfly's bite, and I was about to explain that butterflies actually don't eat with teeth, but maybe you guys would like to explain what a proboscis is.
You okay?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like a little tube.
Yeah.
It's a little tube that they keep tucked in right where their mouth is. That as soon as they sense a food source, you'll be able to see them if you're looking closely. They unravel it and touch down, and it's just like a really long straw that they have, and that's what they use to eat, and they suck it up.
Awesome, thank you. McKinley, do you have a question?
How long can turtles live?
Turtles can live a very long time. So this species can actually, in the wild, live up to 60 years. And they can get about the size of a dinner plate. So the bigger the turtle is, the older they are.
Wow.
Awesome. So boys and girls, we do have a few more minutes if anyone has a few questions or things that you're wondering. I also wanted to just mention, so I'm actually just on, they're just on the other side of this wall here, and I keep popping over there to see and stuff. But I just wanted to show you that here, right in this area, there's actually a fair bit of information. Well, there we go. About the western painted turtle, about the Oregon spotted frog, and
frogs were scared.
so Lockie has questions, and he's taking over the video there. But there's lots of information, and there's lots of signs around the zoo that you can look at and learn lots of information too. So if you are comfortable heading out with your family and heading to the zoo, there's lots of different things that you can read and learn, and you can call that your reading for the day. So there you go. So we have a question from James, and then Isla, I see your hand waving. Is your hand waving for a question? No? Okay. So James has a question. He wants to know, are the butterflies endangered?
Yes, the butterflies are endangered. So that's the reason that we're working with them. I work for Wildlife Preservation Canada in partnership with the zoo. And what we do is we work only with endangered species.
And then Bardia and Mr. Coughlin's class wants to know, does the butterfly drink things besides nectar?
They do, they'll drink from puddles, and so water, nectar, and puddles, yeah.
Awesome. So boys and girls, anyone with the last question for us here? Okay, so my final question, just to wrap up, and you did mention it earlier, but just to wrap up, can you tell us one more time, why is conservation important? Why are there entire organizations dedicated to conservation of animals?
Well, the sad reality is that we are losing species. They're becoming endangered and going extinct very rapidly. And that's just not right for the balance of our ecosystems and our nature. Once things get out of balance, it's very hard to get them back. So we're doing our part right now while we can to put that balance back in place.
Awesome.
The
Well,
butterflies are cool.
very much. Does Lachlan have an important question there, Kat, or is he just yammering?
Do you have an important question, Lachlan?
Yeah,
Okay, what would you like to ask?
I like the turtle. Turtle's kind of cool.
He likes the turtles, everyone.
All right, so boys and girls, thank you for joining us today. We'll have this video up on our Facebook page in a while, hopefully today, if you missed something. But it was great to see all of you today and joining us here at the zoo. And I'm looking forward to going having a bit more chat about the animals here and planning our next few weeks. We have a few more weeks before the end of June, and then we're gonna keep having fun together here over on Zoom. So thank you guys all for joining us. Can we all wave and say thank you to Kat? And we will see you next week. Bye guys. Bye Kat, thank you.
Yeah.